I think that we missed the boat, Mayor Mike, on the possibility of getting a LEED certification for the new fire hall. Vancouver is right into LEED certification and green building. It says go green and behind you. I think I'm not quite sure what your guys' view is on LEED certification and green building with respect to development in this area. I don't know of one LEED certified office, retail store, building, residential neighborhood. Is that something that you just don't think about? I mean, there's a lot of benefits to getting some kind of LEED certification and getting sort of with the trend and saving the taxpayers money in the long run.
So you're talking about public facilities or?
Public and private.
Okay. I think, Carl, the challenge that we hear is that LEED certification isn't the be-all and end-all. Most of the developers will tell you that they're doing LEED equivalencies at different levels, but there's some things in the LEED standard that makes it unattainable. One of the examples that we got in our fire hall was that if we had LEED standards, they go into the bathrooms, for instance, and they put in hand sinks in the washrooms that are motion activated with your hands. And the WorkSafe rules say we can't do that. So how do we reconcile now where we've got a WorkSafe regulation that's in direct conflict with what the LEED standard wants us to do? And that's one of the examples of things that and I know there's LEED scoring and you can get to different ways. The big pushback people say is you're paying $90,000, $100,000 to have documentation done. Personally, I'd like to see something different than LEED out there. If that's the problem, then let's get a different certification out there that allows people to get, equivalencies are better, but doesn't have that stigma attached to it that people run away from. We have in the Sutterbrook development over here, they did phenomenal work on their stormwater management. Nobody knows that they did it. They don't advertise that they did it. The city knows, and our environmental people worked with them tremendously because Sutterbrook, the brook, is a really important part of the natural habitat around here. So what they did is really good work on their stormwater management. Now, they maybe didn't do really good work on some of the other aspects, but we do like the dark sky things for the bird issues and these things that people don't talk about, but they are being done in every development all the time. We have a city policy, although as you pointed out, our first kick at the can, we didn't stick to it. We have a city policy to get LEED certification or equivalency when we're doing our buildings. The fire hall had that as one of the requiremements when we started the building, and I think it's a bad example for us as a city to say we're going to do that and then back off because, it got too expensive. Well, how's everybody in this audience supposed to feel if we put a policy in that says we require you to, but we're not going to do it on our own building? So we need to get our own house in order before we're willing to put that out on other people, which is what we're working towards. But I think it's not going to be LEED. It's going to be some form of LEED equivalency or some other standard that brings us to the goal. Maybe not the same word, but something that brings us to the goal of having those buildings built more sustainably. We're the first municipality, I think, to enact our demolition recycling bylaw, where we require zero waste now on our buildings, and they're all little steps. But sometimes to move the big ship, you have to take big corners, and we're working on it, though.
I think it's a waste of money to spend taxpayers' dollars to put a plaque on a wall that says you're LEED certified. I think you should. I'll finish my answer if you want. I'm sorry. We build to LEED's equivalent. Our Arts Village was LEED Silver, but we didn't spend $25,000 for someone to go around and tick off a checklist. We did it ourselves. We have the provincial government ICBC building, certified LEED's Gold in Port Coquitlam, and there's some others that are equivalent. And again, they don't make the front page of the paper, so a lot of people don't know about it. And that's why. In Port Coquitlam, we're proud about what we've done with green roof, first green roof bylaw in British Columbia. We've got more square feet of private sector green roofs than I would bet anybody in Canada. We got the first green roof in Walmart's history, first green roof in Canadian Tire's history. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Walmart, 100% water retention on site. Those sort of things. A lot of it's going on. It just doesn't make the front page of the paper, and I know all three of our cities are working extremely hard. We might not get the big propaganda machine that the city of Vancouver gets to be the greenest city by 2020, but I can tell you that we're probably doing as much, if not more, than they are.
All right, we have time for one last question. I'm going to let Jillian select of the 3 or 4 that are up there. Which one?
Okay, so we had... does Richard want to answer that question?
Where's Jillian?
No, not anymore.
It's a yes or no.
Actually, just on the leads, I spent 10 years in the Committee of the Rights of National Building Code and dealing with some of these issues because the cost of the certification is there. It's something you can't ignore. Coquitlam actually just finished our, about 3 years ago, our new sports center arena with a system of heat recovery that puts the excess heat from the ice creation process underground about 200 feet and stores it there until it's needed to heat the water in the pool. It also heats the space heating for the library. It does that precinct heating, and it's incredibly efficient. We didn't certify the building because the lead didn't have any way of calculating it. There was no way of dealing with it. As well, we didn't want to spend the amount of money that would have been required to get the plaque on the wall. We nonetheless spent an awful lot of money on reducing the energy consumption of the building and making it more environmentally friendly, including some stormwater retention systems and things like that. I think communities need to balance that all the time. It's really easy to say we're just going to spend taxpayers' money on getting the plaque and do whatever it takes, but sometimes it just doesn't work, particularly with fire halls that have to be post-disaster buildings and things like that, and LEED doesn't necessarily take that into account either. So I think I'm absolutely supportive of the environmental measures that can be done to reduce our energy consumption in buildings, and I'm going to continue to support those kinds of measures. And I know our council does as well, but you do have to balance sometimes.
My apologies, Richard. I'm sorry I didn't give you a chance to answer that question.
It's okay, Greg. Now we know they're hiding things 200 feet underground in Coquitlam. Where
There we go. I just
What
needed
else
to get
have you
that
guys
brought
got
out
down there?
somehow. It worked out just right.
But if you go about 200 feet below Coquitlam, you end up in Port Moody.
Oh, look at that.
All right. We're getting off track. That wasn't part of it. Do we have time? One quick
Last
question then.
Some of you may have heard the RCMP in the news.
I want this.
Actually, some of you may have heard they're in the news again today. So the question to the two mayors is, let's say 2 years from now, we know we've just signed the contract again. Will you commit to examining the contract and what's transpired in the next 2 years so the citizens can have a look at what's really going on with policing?
Well, I wouldn't commit to doing it in 2 years. We do it all the time. And the RCMP weren't in the news. One idiot was in the news, and that happens in Vancouver City Police. It happens in Port Moody, New Westminster, any of the municipal police forces as well.
No.
This wasn't the... Oh, sorry, not Port Moody.
No.
Sorry. Yeah, but a lot of the local community... Anyway. The issues associated with the RCMP are different from the issues associated with individuals, and let's not muddy the two. The RCMP have issues. We've continued as a council to believe that we have to find solutions and work with the RCMP or else find another police force. Nonetheless, our community also benefits from a much lower policing cost and absolutely good, really good response on crime reduction strategy, although some of you may differ with that as well. Ultimately, this isn't a 20-year agreement. This is a 2-year agreement for municipalities. It's only a 20-year agreement for the RCMP. They can't get out of it for 20 years, but any one of us can get out of it with 2 years' notice. And that means every community has to examine that all the time and figure out whether it's, at any given time in its history, it's the best form of policing for that community. And in Coquitlam, we made the decision up until now in our history that it is the best decision, but we'll continue to examine that.
More.
Thanks. First let me say right out of the gate, we have excellent RCMP on the street, and they do an excellent job. Our crime stats over the last 5 to 7 years have been phenomenal, probably the best in BC in our crime reduction strategy. However, there is a governance, there is a contract that is higher up than the men and women on the street, and that's where we have a real issue with. At the end of the day, we are forced to sign that contract. We stated it clearly in our letter to the Solicitor General that we're signing this contract under duress. We think that it is wrong. We've asked the new local government auditor general that the first file that they review was how this contract was forced upon local governments. There was no negotiations that occurred. It was told that you have to sign it or find a new police force. And was told us they had 5 years to negotiate it. We had 5 months to think about it and sign it or find a new police force. Obviously, we can't do that analysis in 5 years. So what we're looking to do, Port Coquitlam with some other municipalities in the Lower Mainland, is to review all policing models that are available to us, and then at the end of that review, make the right decision for Port Coquitlam taxpayers on what's the best policing model for Port Coquitlam. And I'm sure that study will probably take about a year to do, but we'll look across North America and look in our own backyard about what's the best way to do that, and then we'll bring that forward. Might cost a little bit more at the end of the day. It might not be a municipal police. It might be RCMP. It might be a Port Coquitlam detachment of RCMP and not shared with Coquitlam anymore, or it might be the same thing that we have right now. But we're going to look at all the different aspects and figure out what's best for our residents and our businesses.
Gentlemen, thank you. In order to keep within our reasonable time frame, whatever we determined that definition was, we were supposed to be wrapped up by 7:30 on the questions. We're just about 5 minutes behind that, so that's pretty darn good. And I just want to unofficially, unofficially say thank you for coming out. I think as residents of the Tri-Cities, we're very fortunate to have gentlemen like this that make themselves accessible on a very regular basis, whether it be through meetings like this, coffee talk meetings, being able to go see them in their offices, whatever the case may be. I think we're indeed very fortunate, and I don't know if all municipalities have that opportunity. So, as I unofficially say, thank you. And that's the end of my duties, huh?
And I would, on behalf of the chamber, I'd like to thank the three mayors too. I've been doing this for 2 years now, and I've really enjoyed getting to know the mayors and working with them. We were invited to speak at the last joint city council meetings they had up at Manikato last week, and we had a great time presenting what the chamber's about, where we're going. Well, we're changing. We're going to change some things. Status quo is not good enough for me and for a lot of our board members, so we're going to make some changes. You'll see some of them, you'll notice a lot of them, but we're going to change. And we want to work with the cities. We're not going to agree on everything, and that's fine. As long as we have dialogue and can work together and work what's best for the businesses, we're going to do that and keep the lines of communication wide open. So I thank you three mayors and councils for being receptive to everything the chamber's got going. We've got mobile business license on the go. It sounds like by the end of the year we should have that in the Tri-Cities from the report we heard, and that's a very positive thing. So on behalf of the chamber, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming out tonight and getting all these questions. And I get gone? Are you kidding me?
Wow. Yeah, in my office, we call that maybe a CLM. That could be a career-limiting move. Holy cow.
And you wanted an extra week's vacation, is that true too? And I'd also like to thank our MC for tonight, Greg Garrison. Greg's great in the community, does a great job, so thank you very much, Greg.